Welcome to the Monument Town Council meeting for July 20th. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Erickson, take roll, please.
I'm just waiting for Mr. Smith and Mr. Kimball to get logged in.
You gotta log in. Yeah, I don't care. Do we have a Cub Scout in the audience, Boy Scout in the audience, somebody? Why are you here tonight? Boy Scout.
I marked off for a merit badge.
Oh, cool. We happen to have an extra chair up here if you'd like to hang out up here.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got everybody ready. Once he's all settled in, I'll continue.
Okay, go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem King,
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Fiorito,
Here.
Councilmember Chronic,
Here.
Councilmember Kimball,
Here.
Councilmember Abbott, here, and Mayor LaKind is noted absent with prior notice.
Okay, so do we have any disclosures of conflict of interest?
No.
Okay, seeing none, then we'll move to approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. Is there any changes to be made? Or looking for a motion?
I have a question.
Okay.
On G, resolution to appoint members to represent Town of Monument to the Loop Water Authority. Is that something that we need to pull aside and talk about?
No, that's just because we had changed that up. But yeah, no, that's fine to keep in this agenda.
Okay, even with the
Yes.
recent developments?
Well, especially because of the recent developments, we want to keep tabs or a pulse on what's going on so that we're up to speed on it.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Take a vote.
That motion passed. Focus.
Motion passed 6-0. Okay, up next, we have public comments for items not on the agenda. Individuals attending in person may raise their hand to indicate their desire to comment. Individuals attending via Teams may raise their hand digitally to comment via connected devices. Please lower your hand when finished with your comments. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Do you have anybody in the audience that'd like to make public comment? Seeing none, anybody online, Will?
I see none, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 5, presentations, 2025 audit report. Ms. Phillips. Oh, we've got a new Ms. Phillips.
She's tall.
Good evening. I will be covering for Jennifer Phillips tonight. So before I pass it off to Dimitri to go over our 2025 audit, I just wanted to mention the sample size that they collected was roughly about 600 samples, and that spanned across all of our accounts from permits, accounts payable, payroll, and all other accounting items. I'd also like to thank Lori Young and Suzanne Green for being a huge part in helping with this audit, as well as planning. The planning department really played a big role in this one. One of our goals this year was to dive into permits. And so we asked the auditors specifically to audit all of the permits, how we were doing them, how we were submitting them, and making sure that we were receiving the correct revenues for that. And so I know I bugged them quite a bit for it, so I appreciate the help of your team. And I'm going to now pass it over to Dimitri with DMC Auditing and Consulting, and he is online via Teams tonight.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Town Council members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me present tonight. I apologize for not being there in person. I think last year I was there. I feel like it's a little bit more, it's better to be in person. Personally, I just couldn't make it with my schedule this year. So my apologies about that. So what I'm going to do is what I typically do is go over kind of what our process was, generic process and things we follow and the audit process that we follow, and kind of explain to you and anybody listening, any of the audience of what auditors are responsible for and the procedures we perform. And then I'll go over the results. I'll try to explain everything that I kind of read off of. What I do is I usually look at the bullet points on the audit opinion that we provide, which is basically what we get paid for, really, is to perform all these procedures and take months to do this audit and to really give you several pages of an audit opinion that really justifies and says that the financials that are in front of you are legitimate. And so with that, I will share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So what on page 3 of this report, what we call is an independent auditor's report. As I mentioned, this is the report that basically tells the public, the state, as well as you as the town council, that the numbers that you are looking at in this report are reliable. They're materially what's known as materially correct. So what I usually go to is I go to the second page of that audit opinion, and really it talks about our objectives and our responsibilities as auditors. And so what I want to go over is kind of the procedures we did, what we focused on. I think Mr. Murray mentioned that we focused on a lot of building permits things. We focused on different areas this year than we have the year before, and it's mainly based on risk. So our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinions. And basically what that means is that we look for reasonable assurance. It's what we call a high level of assurance, but it's not absolute, and therefore it's not a guarantee that if we conducted the audit that there wouldn't be any material misstatements. But we are basically looking for anything reasonable. We'll look at numbers to determine if they're reasonable and if they're reported accurately, more materially correctly to the public. Material correction means significantly accurate. Without significant error, I apologize. So materially correct means they don't have significant errors in them, so you can rely on the numbers you're reviewing. And moving forward, basically we performed the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. And this year, because the town actually had a single audit because of the expenditures of over $1 million in federal grants, we are required to perform the audit also in accordance with government auditing standards. And what that does is adds a little bit more scrutiny to our audit procedures. We're required to do more procedures, more active procedures, because we are required to follow another set of rules, where we are the ones responsible for doing extra procedures in order to maintain and verify that the financial statements themselves are following the government auditing standards. And so that adds more scrutiny to our procedures, which means we test a little bit more. We'll look at more things, we'll look at more controls, and we try to focus on the single audit process and the internal controls at the town. So we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. Obviously, we follow generally accepted auditing standards. They're the same. These are all the same standards that every other auditor follows. However, we use our judgment to determine what areas do we focus on, what areas do we focus on a little bit less because we feel like there's less risk. So we use a lot of our opinion and our judgment to determine where we shift our focus each year. depending on the controls at the town and where we feel there's the most risk of error or fraud. So with that, we identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, and design and perform procedures responsive to those risks. And that's kind of what I've been sort of saying, is that we determine the risk based on various factors, conversations with your team, conversations that we've had before, maybe look at internal controls of various areas. Maybe we'll look at the financial statements and we see that maybe there's likelihood of an error in a certain spot because of our analytics. So we use those methods to determine what areas are we going to figure out as to be low risk, high risk, or how we're going to focus our and how we're going to determine what to test and how to test it, and how much in depth do we go into our testing with this. And so with that, we obtain an understanding of internal controls relevant to the audit in order to design these procedures. So we look at payroll, we look at cash disbursements, any kind of checks coming in, coming out. We looked at building permits this year, as Mr. Murray mentioned. You know, our goal was to really focus in and try to identify where the risks are and identify where there's controls in place, and when there's areas where a little bit less controls, where we maybe need to do a little bit more procedures to verify that the numbers being reported to you today are materially correct. And so in addition to that, we evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used. And that basically means any sort of leave policies or any policies that the town has in place that have an impact on the financial statements as a whole. We look at those closely and we try to evaluate whether the town actually follows their own policies and procedures. And then we look for reasonableness of significant accounting estimates made by management. Not every number in this report in front of you is related to some bank statement or some invoice or some third-party document that can be, you know, pulled up and verified and said, hey, here's the dollar amount, we can verify this. So a lot of the items that you may be looking at are estimates, and they're estimates based on governmental accounting standards. So governmental accounting standards tell us what's a reasonable estimate and what's not. They kind of tell us what should be a reasonable estimate based on the rules that they've established. And so we audit by those rules. And so we follow to make sure that management's estimates are within those guidelines. And so, like I said, they're estimates made that are reasonable and that are made by or set by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And in the last thing we really focus on is we look at any conditions or events that may raise substantial doubt about the town's ability to continue as a going concern. Basically, what that means is we don't look at the overall, we'll look at the overall health of the organization, basically to say, is it able to continue? Is there enough money to continue moving forward? Are the practices being applied reasonable and sustainable? And that's kind of the gist of what we have to do. We certainly don't compare the town to other towns or anything like that. We're just looking to see, is there any reason to believe that the town has any issues financially? And obviously the town does not, but that's something that a procedure that we perform. And with that, I want to say that the conclusion of the audit is that the financial statements referred to are presented fairly. Once again, the town received an unmodified opinion, a clean opinion, which is fantastic. Yeah, we have very few issues to really report to you, other than we did have to do a single audit this year, which is a federal audit. If you look down past on page, I believe it's 56 of the actual report, or 75 of the PDF. We did have to audit the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, because the majority of those funds, more than $1 million of those funds, were spent in 2025. And so once again, we had to perform our audit in accordance with government auditing standards, which again required additional procedures, additional testing that we had to do. And so we had to do a compliance audit on this program, which we did. We did not have any compliance findings. There were no compliance findings. However, we did have a finding because of the extra scrutiny of the government auditing standards. We did have a finding on what's called on the material weakness. We found a material weakness in audit adjustments. And so basically what that means is we had a material adjustment to the financial statements that required us to report to you a finding, basically meaning that, technically you should have 0 findings. However, no entity I ever audit has 0 adjustments and 0 corrections, which it basically means we had a material correction to the financial statements that we identified during our audit. In a non-single audit year, we typically would just write that up as a correction, and we talk to management, and that would be the end of it. But because this is a yellow book audit, a government auditing standards audit, we had to record it. We had to provide you with a finding relating to a material correction that we had to make. However, I will say this: this is our 2nd year of auditing, and we worked with Jennifer and Steve and Lori, and they do an amazing job, and they really manage your books really well. Their internal controls are in great shape, except for we found an adjustment that had to be recorded. And so the one adjustment and one correction that had to be recorded caused this finding. And so I would want to say that this is really just it's just an anomaly to me. It's really not something that I feel like we want to focus on or really make a big deal of, just because it's part of a standard and a requirement that we have to fulfill as auditors of the town and to follow governmental auditing standards. And so other than that, we really don't have any other issues to report to the town council. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Well, thank you. That's very thorough and very complete. And thanks for going through all that. Does anybody on council have any questions? No?
Thank you.
I think everything's good. So thank you very much for all your help.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me present. And once again, your finance team is great. They do a wonderful job.
You even get applause.
I appreciate that.
All right.
I think your team deserves the applause, but thank you.
The whole finance team is great. All right, so then we'll move on to item number 6, ordinances. These are both public hearing items. So we'll start with the first one, ordinance numbers 18-2026, an ordinance authorizing a moratorium on the acceptance or processing of certain permit applications and land development applications where a data center is included in the proposed principal or accessory use. Mr. Ungerleider.
Well, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm Dan Ungerleider, Planning Director. My name is not Jenna Gorney, but she did a lot of work on this. So I want to make sure I do point out that she did spend a lot of time on this and putting this together. We've been discussing and reviewing data centers for quite a bit at the council level, and we wanted to come back to you as directed with a proposed ordinance placing a moratorium on the review or acceptance of applications and the review of applications for data centers. And this has become very apparent along the Colorado Front Range and across the nation of the impact of data centers on communities and their impacts on resources, utilities, and just local land use. Although there's been absolutely no formal development application submitted to the town, the regional trend has prompted a proactive review by staff to ensure that the town is prepared to respond thoughtfully and thoroughly for any proposals that might arise. So before you tonight, you have an ordinance proposing a 6-month moratorium on data centers. This seems to be a short-term moratorium, but it's actually hitting us in an appropriate time. We are updating our Chapter 18 land development code, and we're going to include the data center review and update as part of that Chapter 18 update. We prepared to conduct the research over the and and make a recommendation for code changes within that 6-month period. So we feel very confident that this moratorium will serve the community well and allow this council to address the concerns through modifying its code. Make sure I'm not missing any other pertinent facts or issues. I think it's really important. Again, I want to highlight the fact that there aren't any applications, so we're not actually impacting anybody through this moratorium. This is really just a chance for us to take a step back, take a look and see how this land use it has an impact on our community, and then to update our codes properly so we can act appropriately later. So I'm available if there's any questions, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory based on our previous conversations.
Do we have any questions from anyone on council? I mean, we talked about this at length in our last meeting, and you know, I think the consensus is pretty clear that at the very least, we'd want to highly regulate these, if not altogether eliminate them, at least from my point of view. I know some other people have some different opinions, but I have a really hard time seeing the benefit for monument. So I will personally, and I'm sure there's a consensus here, to, you know, have the planning department go through your due diligence and come back with the information that we need to make a good decision. Because, you know, that's one of those things. If we just have to make sure it's right. If we open up the door and it goes badly, then that's a huge problem. So I'm on the air of utmost caution, and I'm having, like I said, a hard time seeing where it would benefit monument anyway. So we'll go through the 6-month moratorium most likely when we'll have to take a vote on that. But that's really not a question. It's all just a statement. But thank you for going through this. And
You're
thank
welcome.
Jenna as well.
Will do.
One question, Dan. In section 4, you give the definition of the data center. Do we also need to put in the size? Or just use that, just the definition is going to be enough?
It was our intention to make sure that we had we were covering it using a blanket term, and that we will come back to you with more details. Certain sizes, certain other attributes to that data center might require different types of review by council at a future date if one were to be proposed. So we'll be looking at anything from what I guess have been described as the mega data center to a storefront data center, depending on whatever's proposed. So we're going to stick with the blanket for now, if it's okay with you.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm 100% in support of this. I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Very good.
On that section 4. Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing item, so are there any questions or statements from anyone in the audience on this hearing item? None? Will anybody online want to make any comments?
There are no hands raised, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Thank you. Then I'll close the public section of this public hearing and bring it back to council if there's any further discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-2026. An ordinance authorizing a moratorium on the acceptance of or processing of certain permit applications and land development applications where a data center is included as a proposed principal or accessory use.
Second.
Second, Ms. Erickson, we'll take a vote.
That motion passed 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's the second ordinance that we have is ordinance number 13-2026. An ordinance adding section 12.28.125 to the Monument Municipal Code requiring parking permits at Monument Lake. Ashley, you're up.
It's actually going to be me.
Oh. Hey, Madeline,
Switch.
everybody's switching tonight.
Well, good evening, council. Tonight, before you have an ordinance and a resolution related to parking permits at Monument Lake. We originally presented this to you on May 18th, and we heard from some of our community members. And I think that this represents a great compromise as to how we were able to meet the needs of the town as well as hear from our residents. So what is new tonight, from when we brought it to you in May, is we've established a $50 a year annual residential permit option. In addition, so in lieu of the $5.25 parking per day fee. So residents of the town of Monument will have the opportunity to apply for those permits on a yearly basis at $50. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's the gist of what was changed since the May 18th meeting.
Okay,
I have one question. Where does one get a permit?
We'll issue those from our water billing office at 259 Beacon Lite. It will take us a little while to get those permits up and running, creating the permits and figuring out the process. But once they're available, that's where we'll be issuing them from.
And the ETA?
I'm not sure. We have not talked internally about what that looks like. It might be towards the end of this year or beginning of next year. Since it's an annual permit, it might make more sense for that permit to be available in 2027, rather than trying to figure out something just for the residential permit. We'll probably go forward if it passes tonight with installing the kiosks. But as of right now, we're looking at the permits being available in early 2027.
Thank you.
Question about enforcement. How is that gonna? How do you foresee that playing out?
I think that our police department will enforce it as best as possible within the parameters of our resources. It's not probably their number one priority on every single day, but so it just kind of depends on the workload of the officers that day. But there will be checking occasionally to see if people are obeying the rules.
And then how did the discussions with the residents, with their concerns about parking on the, people parking on the side streets or in front of the houses and then, on both sides of the street, which makes it then extremely narrow to get through?
Because those are public streets, there's not a whole lot of a solution that we have for them. The Metro District is welcome to put signage up, but from our perspective, there's not a lot of signage that we can put up on public streets. They're not private streets.
Is there still a plan to put boulders in place? And
we've already installed boulders on Mitchell, as well as no parking signs on Mitchell Avenue.
Good. Anything else? Anybody? So I have one question because I think that I remember you mentioning something about we did some type of a survey of people that were using the lake and that the majority of those people were from outside of the area. Is that correct?
It was really more of a day and time survey that was offered to us by a company that looks at data from cell phones. And I don't remember the specifics, but it did look like people coming on that day that it was looked at, people coming from the lake were not necessarily coming from town.
Okay. All right. And then I guess the other question that I would ask is, do you have any kind of idea on how much money the town spends to maintain the facilities that are down there?
Given that the restrooms are new, and we do clean them several times a week, so I don't have the specific data on that yet, but cleaning supplies, labor for cleaning the bathrooms. Unfortunately, we've had quite a bit of vandalism to the piers, so there's oftentimes where we have to make repairs to the piers. Grading the road does take quite a bit of dirt replacement, as well as time and the road grader. So time essentially, and then a little bit of materials, but I don't have exact dollar figures on it kind of depends on how much dirt is needed and how badly the road is rutted out and how much vandalism there is.
And trash and gazebos and things like that.
Right. I mean, trash is picked up several times a week and we pay for that service. So in order to keep the lake clean and nice, I mean, we do spend quite a bit of not only contract man hours, but also employee man hours on maintaining that lake.
So this would help, but probably not even cover those costs, but it would definitely help.
Right. Our estimates are pretty conservative this year, based on what we anticipate, based on parking and what we think might happen. So it's a wide range, somewhere between 25,000 and 60,000. But I don't believe that covers our maintenance costs at all.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick one. Madeline, so the permits are for residents and then the non-residents will use the kiosks? Is that the goal?
Correct. The
Okay,
parking
and-
kiosk.
And will it be like something we hang in our windows if we got a parking pass or a sticker?
Some sort of pass. So we've been looking at stickers. We've been looking at something you hang in the window. It just sort of depends. We're looking at what other communities use. So we can figure out what's the least expensive cost and manpower time for staff to implement.
Okay, thank
To
you.
Excuse me, to clarify, the permit doesn't guarantee you a parking space.
It does not guarantee a parking space. We don't have enough parking spaces for every single resident in the town.
Right.
We have
Any-
13,000 residents in town.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing item, so are there any comments from anyone in the audience? Seeing none, anyone online will?
No hands raised, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll close the public comment section and bring it back for discussion or a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 13-2026, an ordinance adding section 12.28.125 to the Monument Municipal Code requiring parking permits at Monument Lake.
Motion in a second, we'll take a vote. That motion passes 5-1. Okay, we'll move on to resolutions. First resolution, resolution number 33-2026. A resolution requiring parking permits at Monument Lake, establishing the parking permit area, fees and fines. Is that you, Ashley, or Madeline?
It's essentially the same information that I just presented. So it's the same information.
Okay,
So if you have any questions specifically for the resolution, we can answer those.
One other thing that was changed from the prior resolution was just the exemptions as well. So there's no exemptions for town events anymore. That was something that was discussed.
right. Okay, any questions? Okay, well, then I will look for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 33-2026, a resolution requiring parking permits at Monument Lake, establishing the parking permit area, fees and fines.
Second.
Motion in a second, we'll take a vote. Motion passes 5-1. Second resolution. Resolution number 45-2026, a resolution to approve Art of Monument Play Park contract. Mr. Archuleta.
Good evening, council. You all should have an updated memo and resolution for number 45 for approve the contract for the play park. So as many of you are aware, this project has been in talks since 2019. It all started with Madeline and the Kiwanis Club getting this idea of a universally accessible playground right here in the heart of downtown. So with a lot of hard work from the Kiwanis Club and their amazing efforts in fundraising money, as well as some grants that we have received, as well as some money that we are putting forward, we have finally were able to actually get this going. We put this out to bid for competitive bid. We received 4 different bidders that came in. Our lowest bidder, our lowest responsive bidder is for Fisk Landscapes, who is present here tonight as well, to complete phase 1 and the phase 1 option of this playground. Ultimately, phase 1 and phase 1 option is complete grading of the area, getting the play equipment installed in there, as well as the play surface, which is a pour in place surface to allow for universally accessible people. So the total bills that we come out to, it's $754,913. Of that, the town has $100,000 that we were awarded from the grant of the Colorado Springs Health Foundation. We are also giving $100,000 from our park fee fund, and that also includes $1,000 that we raised from our zombie license fees that the planning department sold last year. The rest of the money was raised by the Kiwanis clubs and their fundraising and everything like that. We worked very close, including with our town engineer, IMEG, to figure out the most beneficial way to make our money go as far as we can to make sure we can get as much completed with this first stage. There's still going to be a couple more phases after this initial one, but the Kiwanis, they are working very hard to get that money fundraising. If we can get this approved, we can get this project started here, hopefully in the next month or so. Hopefully by the end of the year, we can actually have a ribbon cutting for this phase 1. But if there's any questions, I know there's a lot of information. It's been a long project. We've gone 7 years now trying to get this project going. So finally looking like we see some light at the tunnel.
Can you just elaborate, or for everyone either watching or not knowing the exact location?
Sure. So the location is going to be at 2nd Street and Adams, just north of there, just south of the church right there. So it's behind a couple apartments that are right there, but it'll be right up Adams Street.
Any other questions? So this is also for people in the audience and online, this is a fully accessible park for which we don't have in as far as the town goes. And I do want to commend the Kiwanis for fundraising. It's incredible how much money that they've raised. And I know there's more to go, and parks are expensive. There's no doubt about it. But between that and the grant money, and I mean, this is a really great value for the citizens. So thanks for all your hard work on it as well. Any other questions, statements, comments?
No question, just a statement. I just want to thank you and the finance department for making the corrections to these 2 documents. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a little confusing, so.
Yeah, sorry that we didn't include the total amount in there. We only had the town's contribution, so sorry about that.
Right, because
Okay.
we're entering the contract, and yet there's a lot of reimbursable money, so thanks for clarifying that. Okay, then if there's nothing further, I'll look for a motion on that.
I move to approve resolution number 45-2026. A resolution to approve Heart Monument Play Park contract.
Second.
Motion is second. We'll take a vote. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, the second part of that is resolution number 46-2026, a resolution to approve Art of Monument parking lot contract.
All righty. So to go along with this play park, there is a parking lot that's going to be included. It's going to be a fully ADA parking lot that has regular ADA spots as well as van ADA spots. So with this, the town, we won a CDBG grant for $100,000 to go towards this parking lot. So along with the play park IFB that we submitted this parking lot one right alongside with it. Same thing, we received 4 other bidders. The lowest responsive bidder was National Pavement Partners that came in for $71,355. So that's well below our $100,000 that we have to spend through our grant. But it kind of gives us a little bit of wiggle room, but this is just to install just the parking lot that has access off of Adams Street and the curb and gutter that goes along with that. Are there any questions about the parking lot?
Questions? Oh, I have no parking lot questions, so. I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 46-2026. A resolution to approve Heart of Monument parking lot contract.
Second.
Motion and a second. We'll take a vote. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, we'll go on to item number 8, future agenda item authorization. Ms. Van Oak.
I do not have any items for you today.
What? What? That's two meetings in a row. Okay, well, then we'll keep you up for reports. Your town manager monthly report.
So just a few highlights from the report. I am happy to answer any questions that you might have on the report that's presented in your council packet. But I do want to recognize Lieutenant Owens, who just recently completed the FBI National Academy, and Officer Teeples, who was just promoted to the rank of sergeant. So I'm incredibly proud of those accomplishments. Furthermore, Officer Thompson was recently recognized and selected as the Masonic Lodge Officer of the Year for his outstanding service, professionalism, and dedication to the community. And then our police department just recently held in June our Cops and Bobbers event at Monument Lake. So a really successful and good turnout, and appreciate their efforts on that community engagement. Our Concerts in the Park series has been very strong. It is wonderful to sit with Portia and have the residents come and give so many compliments about how much they really enjoy that community event. And I know it takes a lot of time and planning and effort with the food trucks and the bands, and just appreciate her effort, along with the Public Works and Parks Department, who really help her get the park ready for that event. We spent a lot of June prepping for the 4th of July, which is our biggest event that we hold in Monument. And a lot of work. Almost every single department works on the 4th of July, and it's multi-months of planning and thinking through different scenarios, and just listening to the amount of thought and thoroughness that our staff puts into making sure it's a really successful and safe event for our community is really commendable. So I just want to acknowledge all of the staff that work so hard on our large 4th of July. As we have constantly heard, it's one of the biggest celebrations in the state, and we're really proud of that. So appreciate their efforts. Every department has been working on the 2027 budget. So finance is preparing to present a preliminary draft budget to you in August. So everybody is working really hard on getting those numbers and projects ready for that presentation. And as you just heard, our finance team just did an amazing job on completing the 2025 audit. So kudos to them for their hard work. Administration has been working really hard on records management with our Laserfish program. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to play around in it, but I use it almost every day just to find documents or tell me the story of how this came to be. And I'm really finding it an excellent tool. And I know it's taken a lot of work from Laura and her team, as well as the rest of the departments, in order to really get those documents uploaded and tagged so that they're easy to find. So appreciate their efforts. Summer is a busy month for Public Works, so they're working on our parks, making sure that they are clean and safe, well maintained. Our streets departments are working hard on our streets, ensuring that crosswalks are painted and in good shape, and our signage is in good shape as well. So summer is just a really busy month, in addition to helping with events and facilities and fleet and working at the cemetery. So everybody comes together to work on those projects. And then our water department has been very busy too in maintenance and addressing some pretty major leaks in the past couple of weeks and doing it really efficiently and fast, getting our customers their water back in service. So appreciate their hard work. The water department's also been working on standards and our long-term water master plan, as well as a lot of the projects on our future water supply. So appreciate their work and to all of our staff, because it's a really busy time of year, but they're doing an amazing job of keeping everything going. So thank you for letting me highlight a few of those items. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yeah, outstanding. And doing this every month like this is, I know it's a lot of work, but it also puts this out in the public, and the public can see what we're doing and see what the town's doing, because I know everybody here works hard, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll say thanks and appreciate the behind the scenes by not just staff, but all the employees that are doing the job. We like to say boots on the ground, getting the job done for the town. So it's much appreciated, and it doesn't go unrecognized. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we'll move on to item number 10, council comments. Start down this end.
Yeah, I saw the email on the changes to the federal grants, the potential changes to federal grants. So I think that might be something that we may want to discuss. And I don't know how soon, but maybe something that we can bring up on the agenda item for next time, because if it goes into action, the potential looks pretty significant on the staff, who I know they're bored, but that's sarcasm for anybody that's listening. But they don't need extra work. And so I think we probably, as a council, probably need to discuss that to see if we want to send a letter of support to not have that passed, or to show our or give our input to our representatives in Congress to, think hard before they add more regulations to municipal staff. Just a thought.
Is that something we should add?
If I may, the comments were due July 30th.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well, there you
I'm
go.
sorry.
All right. We'll still call your congressman. It might not be. They
It
happen to
looks
be
like
in
there's-
recess half the
yeah.
time anyway, so.
Yeah, they're slated to take effect October 1st. So I would encourage you to reach out to your congressman and see if there's any feedback they will accept.
Okay, thank you.
Everything, Ken? How about you? Do you have any comments? I don't know how you got that chair up that high, but that's pretty good. I don't have anything.
I have nothing.
We're good. Nobody's long-winded tonight.
Wow.
Okay, so then we're going to go into executive session, and I'm assuming that there's a potential that we're going to come back out of executive session. So we won't adjourn out of executive session. We'll come back out. So any of you are free to wait down the hall if you want to come back, or log in at home. Yeah. So anyway, I'll look for a motion. We're going to do this. We're going to do a motion and a vote for each executive session. So.
All right, I'll kick it off. I make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 sub 4 sub F for discussion of a personnel matter involving the performance evaluation of the town manager, who has been notified of the executive session and has consented to it.
Second.
Motion is second. We'll take a vote. Motion passes 6-0. Okay. up for the second one?
All right, I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 sub 4 sub B for the purposes of receiving legal advice from the town's legal counsel regarding town water system planning and strategy in light of continuing developments and considerations.
Second.
Motion and second, take a vote. Motion passes 6-0. One more.
And I move to go into executive session pursuant to CRS, wow, 24-6-402 sub 4 sub B and CRS 24-6-402 sub 4 sub E for purposes of receiving legal advice from the town's legal counsel and for purposes of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators regarding potential legal claims and consideration of a former employee's recent correspondence.
Second.
Motion and second, take a vote. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, we'll move into executive session. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And again, feel free to wait down the hall if you'd like to come back. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Okay, we're back out of executive session. Executive session 11A, we're not going to have any discussion on. But executive session 11B, do we have any discussion on that?
B is the
Water.
The water.
Yeah. So in light of what's recent developments, significant developments, and the fact that our staff are pushing ahead on a local regional option and providing us numbers and some reasonable solutions. I think the direction that we will provide to staff is reasonable and
We want
to me
to,
it's obvious.
we want to just retain the payment.
Yeah, so definitely retain payment that was supposed to go to the loop that we had previously asked staff to make the payment. So now we're gonna,
And then we'll have some discussion on August 3rd.
yes, and then further discuss it on August 3rd on what the options after that, but and what costs and whatnot, et cetera.
So do we need to make a motion on retaining that payment?
I think we just go.
We need to do
or
that.
just do directly.
We
No,
don't,
we
Ashley
don't.
says no.
Okay.
Okay,
Because it was an invoice that was supposed to, it was already in the budget or something, right? That
Yeah,
we didn't
okay.
do.
Okay.
So
so we need no motion on this one?
no, just.
Okay, just the
Okay.
directions. Okay.
Then that will be direction.
Not to pay it.
And then item 11C, do we need to have discussion on that or make a motion for direction or just give direction?
I think just.
This one you should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Negotiations with.
okay. So who would like to make that motion?
I will make the motion to request that Emily and Ashley negotiate with a former town employee according to the parameters given by council.
Second.
Motion and a second. We'll take a vote.
Me.
And I'm logged off, so I'm gonna vote voice.
Wow.
Hush, hush, hush. Yes, I'm voting yes. Thank you.
Motion passes 5-1. Okay, so now that we're through with all the executive session items, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Motion moved. Seconded.
Everybody?
Out of here.
Everybody say aye.
Aye.
Aye.